Have you found yourself facing an opportunity or a partnership offer only to feel paralyzed by uncertainty? When trying to shoulder the weight of making a decision that could shape your future, how do you evaluate it with confidence and clarity to know when to say yes or no? In today's episode of Own the Exit, I'm going to lay out for you my personal value contribution quotient. It's how I evaluate deals, partnerships, new business opportunities, and it's based on the three T's: time, treasure, and talent. So stick around for the full episode. I think you're going to gain some valuable tools to evaluate opportunities that come your way. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Own the Exit. I'm your co-host, Aaron. It's just going to be me today because I wanted to talk with you guys a little bit about how to evaluate opportunities that come your way, deals, business partnerships, specifically how to figure out how to partner with someone. In business, there's a lot of opportunities that come our way, and sometimes we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle to take that deal down and to execute it through the entire business plan. And that's why we have partners, right? Because a good partner is going to contribute value to the partnership. That's why we partner. I think there's a quote that one horse can pull 2,000 pounds. Two horses, when they're linked together, can pull like 8,000 pounds. And so it's this idea of teamwork. When you have a good partner, when both partners are doing their share, there can be a compounding effect there. And so basically, what I wanted to talk with you guys about is something that I've come up with and what I use when going into business partnerships. I call it the Value Contribution Quotient, the VC quotient. And it consists of the three T's: time, talent, and treasure. Every business venture, every business opportunity that you're going to go into is going to need talent. Somebody needs to know what they're doing. It's going to need time. Somebody has to do the work. Even if that means you hire an employee to do 100% of the work, someone needs to do it. And it's going to need treasure. Somebody's going to have to put in the money. Even if somebody borrows all the money from the bank, if they borrow it, they're going to have to be qualified and go sign on the loan and get $100,000 or $1 million or whatever it is. So they're contributing that time, that talent, and that treasure. And so how the value contribution quotient works is you just look at those three T's and you just look at it and you say, hey, you're contributing this, you're contributing this, you're contributing this. And sometimes it's a percentage. Maybe people put in 50-50 of the money, 50-50 of the time, 50-50 of the talent. But you just need to look at it. The whole needs to equal 100%. So if you have all the time, all the talent, and all the treasure, you don't really need a partner then, right? Because you can do the whole thing yourself. But most people, and especially as you grow in business, they don't have all three of those, or even if they don't want to contribute at all. They might have $1 million, but they don't want to put their time into that thing. They want to find somebody who has time. Or maybe they have the talent, or they have the expertise, they have the knowledge. They can contribute that strategic oversight over the business, and maybe they only have half the money. And maybe they only want to put in, 10% of the time. But that's why you just look at the time, talent, and treasure. And so I want to give you guys three stories of how this has played out in my own life, my own business. I work in real estate. And so for me, my partnerships are mostly real estate partnerships. I've had many partners, bought many pieces of real estate. I own a lot of real estate still with partners. And I want to give you three examples with this VC quotient in play. So the first one is, this was actually just a house. It was a single family house. And this was a long time ago where I partnered with someone and he put up all of the treasure. He put up 100% of the money. I put up the talent. I had knowledge of my local market. I knew the real estate agent. I knew all the contractors. I had some expertise because I'd bought a lot of houses previously. Those were the two things that each of us contributed. I contributed talent, he contributed treasure, and I was going to contribute some time, and then the rest of the time was going to go to we were going to hire it out to employees. And so anyways, that was our VC quotient. However, as the business went along, I ended up doing all the time. So we started hiring people, and then that kind of tapered off because the budget went up. And so he ended up putting in more treasure. And all of a sudden, there wasn't enough treasure to hire out the time. So I had to do all the time. And then that took me away from other things that I was doing. So it ended up not great because it got lopsided. But that's just partnerships, right? And that's why going into a partnership, you got to make sure that who you're working with is a good person who has integrity, who's somebody that you can work with, who's somebody that's reasonable. And you set up your VC quotient at the beginning, but you got to keep it adaptable and you've got to be able to have a conversation with that person. We exited that house, made a profit, not a lot of money for the amount of time I put in, but it was a learning experience. Another example was buying a 92 unit apartment complex. My company was a 50% owner, and I partnered with another company, two guys. They were 50% owners. So we were 50-50. And basically on that deal, there was different contributions that we both put in, but it was about 50-50 on the time contribution. But what happened as about a year went by, we both live in Kansas City. We were butting heads on the time, not in a bad way, but we was like a duplication of work. We're both trying to talk to the property manager. We're both trying to do a really large scale. It was like a $1.5 million renovation. So we're stepping on each other's toes. So for my company, we were busy enough doing other projects. We took a step back on the time because we're like, he's already doing it all. But what happened is after about a year went by, they came and they're like, hey, we're doing more time than you. When we went into this thing, we were supposed to be doing 50-50 on the time. And I was like, we just looked at it, right? We looked at our initial VC quotient and we looked at initially what we had both contributed. And then we just looked at the hours that we were spending. I was like, you know what? You guys are right. You guys are contributing more time. And so we just audited our VC quotient and we looked at it and we actually adjusted it and we changed it. And I actually, for my company, reduced the ownership percentage down to 32%. And 32% sounds like a funny number, but that's actually what the number was when we just looked at it as far as what the contributions were of time, talent, and treasure. I ended up it spit out 32%. I'm like, hey, that's fair. You could argue what's the percentage of the value of money or the time, but for us, it was fair. We looked at it. We're like, yeah, that's what we had said earlier. And the reason it got reduced by 18% is because of this time. And so that's another example of being flexible and working with somebody who's reasonable. I was reasonable. They were reasonable. I could have said, no, we're going to be 50-50. And it wouldn't have been good. It would have created underlying frustration. It just wouldn't have made sense because I wasn't contributing 50% in an ongoing way. And so that's just another real world example of the VC quotient in play. Last example is in April. So just 4 or 5 months ago, I purchased a 42 unit apartment complex with a partner. Time, treasure, and talent. I live in Kansas City. I'm very familiar with apartment complexes. I bought a lot of them here in Kansas City. This one was actually in my submarket where I live, about 10 minutes away. I know the apartment complex. I like it. I have a construction company that can renovate all the units, very aware of the market dynamics and all those things. So I have the talent to contribute and also the time because I'm here local, hands-on management, putting in all the talent, putting in all the time. My partner, he's putting in all the treasure, 100% of the treasure he put into that deal. And he doesn't have the talent. And that's not to knock him. He's a smart guy who's built a big net worth, actually, buying single family homes, different asset class, and also in LA. And so different market, different nuances to it. And he admits it. He said, hey, I don't have the talent for this. I don't do that. I don't know that market. And I also don't have the time. He came to Kansas City one time for about 4 hours to walk through the apartment just to see it, just to say he did for his wife pretty much. But I don't want to come there. I don't want to, you guys do that. You guys do the talent. You guys do the time. We're 50-50 partners on that deal. So that's how we landed on that particular deal. I thought it was a great deal. It's my time is sweat equity because I'm not going to see a dime until we sell that thing a year, 2, 3, 5 years in the future. Who knows when we'll sell it? I'm not going to see a dime. So I'm working for free and I'm leveraging my talent for free until a future payday. But it's the same for him. When we sell it, he gets his initial money back, everything he's put in it, he gets that because that's his money. then we split at 50-50. So it's a good deal all around so far. It remains to be seen whether we need to do a VC quotient audit. If he flies out here next year and starts renovating a bunch of units himself because he's bored, then we could just look at it and be like, hey, if you want to do that, then I don't know, you're a 60% partner or whatever it might be. Just being adaptable. And so that's something that I like to do, which I call the VC quotient annual sync up. Basically, just looking at it, and usually you don't have to adjust the partnerships, but just looking at it and being like, hey, is this still fair? Does this still make sense for everybody involved? I never want to be in a bad partnership. I never want to be in a partnership where it's weird. We're like, hey, you signed this operating agreement, you're locked in at a 50% partner, even though you're doing twice the amount of work or you're contributing twice the amount of money, or maybe we've had this partnership for 2 years and all of a sudden there's $100,000 that somebody needs to put in and you end up putting it in. You need to get compensated for that. And so that's basically how I look at business partnerships. I like partnerships. There's a risk of having a partner because sometimes they don't work out. I've had, partnership that didn't work out and it really sucked. All of the other ones have been good so far. But this VC quotient is just what I use. And I've got a little kind of a spreadsheet and I can break it down more complex too with different components of the time and components of the treasure, things of that nature. You get what I'm saying. I'm in real estate, so that's why I use those 3 examples of the 3 properties that I purchased. But this applies to any business, any partnership, any kind of venture that you're going to go into. My big takeaways for you would be, just look at the contribution that everybody's putting in. And number 2, make sure you're working with somebody who is good to work with. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you put in that operating agreement. Things happen. Snags come up. Challenges come up. It just is business. That's how business works. It's not always smooth sailing. It's actually usually not. And so you have to be working with somebody that you can work with. And somebody that you can communicate openly with, and somebody that is transparent in what they do, is not just thinking about what they can get out of it, right? But like, how can they add value and contribute to the partnership? So that's all I got for you today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Own the Exit. I love doing this podcast with myself and my co-host, Caleb Edwards, just to try to resource entrepreneurs. We're entrepreneurs ourselves. We're not on the sidelines telling you how to be an entrepreneur. We're doing it ourselves. We're in the trenches, building businesses, trying to scale them, trying to grow them, trying to develop successful partnerships, and everything that we're learning along the way. We want to share it with you. If you've enjoyed this episode, feel free to feel free to drop a comment on YouTube. Feel free to subscribe, iTunes, Spotify, and appreciate you guys. Have a great day.